Okay, so we have some breaking news here. The Newark mayor in New Jersey was arrested for attempting to break into the ICE detention center. And while he's caught doing all this, his airport is facing troubles again. Also, President Trump is planning to increase taxes on the rich.
Mayor Baraka was arrested by DHS this afternoon while he was protesting outside of a New Jersey jail recently converted into an ICE detention center. It was the second time Mayor Baraka had held protests outside the facility, a new facility built to hold up to 1,000 people. Footage of the arrest was captured by Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who was also protesting at the facility today. HABA declined to say where the mayor was being held, simply that he was still in the state of New Jersey.
So let's understand exactly what's going on here. This detention center is something we talked about last week. Remember, this mayor was looking to get this detention center shut down because the federal government reopened it to house illegal aliens. That's number one. Number two, this mayor, including Democrat lawmakers, showed up protesting and was warned multiple times to vacate the premises. They decided to enter the property anyway, and then that's when the mayor was arrested. Now, again, Democrats will claim President Trump is arresting his political opponents, and this violates democracy and the whole nine, right? But let's first hear from Elena Haba and what she had to say about this arrest. Take a listen.
Well, I can confirm, as I have publicly stated, that we have put the mayor, Ras Baraka, under arrest. You know, it's very simple, Martha. As I've said, in the state of New Jersey, as Pam Bondi has said in the United States, we will not stand for anybody getting in the way of getting rid of criminals in this country. It's very simple. Unfortunately, the mayor has publicly for 3 days been saying that he's going to break in, eventually did break in, was given multiple opportunities to remove himself, failed to do so, and has been detained and will be charged.
And where is he being held?
I'm not going to speak to that right now. He's obviously in New Jersey.
But he's in custody.
Yes. He has been arrested and will be charged.
Okay, so what we're going to do next is take a look at some of the footage when it actually happened in real time. And to give you guys kind of the sequence of events, first it started off with some protests. Then a ICE detention bus rolled up, so the gate had to open. And then a lot of people tried to rush inside the gate. And that's when all hell broke loose. And then ultimately the mayor was arrested. Take a look.
Hold it. Back up. Back up. Over there. What are you doing? Put your hands on me. For real, if it's harassment, you know that's wrong.
Okay, so let's understand who was actually there. As you guys seen in that clip, that's the mayor of Newark being taken away in handcuffs. There's a councilwoman. There was also Bonnie Watson Coleman, who was a congresswoman, and Robert Menendez Jr. Now, that might sound familiar to you if you know who his father was. He also was in Congress, but then was convicted of racketeering and other corruption charges. So they're all there on site pleading their case. Let's take a listen.
As soon as we got here, we were met with opposition. People were telling us that they're getting a supervisor, that they're going to get someone to come talk with us. We waited and waited. Finally, we went past the gate, and then we had to wait longer. We actually waited over 2 hours to get into this facility just to do a simple oversight visit.
And according to reports so far, which is really hard to confirm since this just happened, it's that this entire oversight visit or inspection was unannounced, and there should have been an actual date on the books. It should have been confirmed, and they decided to show up whenever they wanted, and they were not well received, which led to this obviously spiraling out of control. Now, in this next clip, this is Bob Menendez. Okay, he almost comes to tears, literally. Take a listen.
Who's there? I can't begin to describe what happened here today. It started as part of our core functions as members of Congress to conduct oversight of ICE and privately run detention centers, where we waited patiently for over an hour and a half. Just waited. Waited to do what we've done together at Elizabeth Detention Center. We waited. And then we only saw action taking place outside where we were waiting, not knowing what was happening. We walked out to see what was going on. We saw Mayor Baraka out here by himself.
Now, Homeland Security posted this, and I'm going to show you what their spokesperson had to say. Today, as a bus of detainees was entering the security gate of Delaney Hall Detention Center, a group of protesters, including 2 members of U.S. Congress, stormed the gate and broke into the detention facility. The allegations by Newark politicians that Delaney does not have the proper permitting is false. Meet who the New Jersey lawmakers are fighting for. They did a whole thread of people that were on that bus and how they're all criminals, etc. Now, here's what the spokesperson had to say. Take a listen.
There's been for days protests outside of this ICE facility, Delaney Detention Hall, which was open just in May. So it's very recent. It houses MS-13 gang members. It houses rapists, child predators, multiple, an MS-13 gang member, even a suspected terrorist. So these are really the worst of the worst in this facility. And the fact that the Democrats are trying to get these individuals out of the facility, but to set the scene here, Will, what happened was there was a bus full of detainees trying to get through the gate when these Democrat politicians and protesters stormed that gate and got to the first security checkpoint. So when you're seeing any of these people being restrained, it's because they illegally broke into this facility. And we can expect, I mean, a civilian, if they try to break into a detention facility, they will be physically restrained. Members of Congress also have to follow the law. Had they asked us to take a tour of that facility, we would have happily facilitated that for them. You heard them themselves saying that the facility was in good shape.
Now, let me explain to you guys what this sounds like to me. I want you to take yourself back to your childhood days. Remember there was a party or an event or a place that you knew if you went to, trouble was going to be there waiting for you. You knew that, whether it was a beef that you had with somebody or your friend had a beef with somebody, you knew if you went to that party or you went to that event, something was going to go down. That's exactly what happened here. Those U.S. Congress individuals knew by showing up to that detention center and bypassing that first checkpoint, trouble was going to take place. And that's just the way that I see it. I'm sure more information will come out over the weekend, and I will react then. Now, let's go to our next story, which again keeps us in New Jersey. So the airport, right? Newark International is continuing to suffer issues. Another blackout occurred. It's like you can't make this up. Every time the mayor is in the news, so is the airport itself. Take a listen to this.
Radar screens went black at the international airport there for a second time in a week. The FAA says the latest blackout happened early this morning, and it lasted, get this, nearly 90 seconds at Newark Liberty International, by the way, one of the nation's busiest airports. One air traffic controller can even be heard reacting to the outage while communicating with a FedEx pilot just before 4 a.m.
FedEx 1989, I hand you off here. Our scopes just went black again. If you care about this, contact your airline and try to get some pressure for them to fix this stuff. New York departure now 120.8.
Okay, so there are competing narratives, obviously, here. From the left, they're going to claim that this never happened under Joe Biden, and now all of a sudden it's happening under President Trump. From the White House point of view, this is a broken system that's been broken for many, many decades. And any day now, more catastrophe and tragic events could take place. This is why we need to overhaul the system. And in order to do that, Congress needs to cough up the money up front, which is exactly what the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, said yesterday. Now, take a look at CNN, because here they are trying to get the former acting FAA administrator to blame this on Trump, but they actually got a truthful answer instead.
Who, if there's any singular entity, is to blame for this not being addressed earlier? Should this have been done when you were there during the Biden administration? Why now?
Absolutely. I could say it should have been done at every previous administration. You look back, right? What the secretary articulated yesterday is that some of this goes back three decades or more, right? You've got legacy copper systems. We've got, the FAA's got a lot of stuff in place at some of our very busiest airport, but there's still technology that's not there at, 400 other towers, if you will. We're still using paper strips. We got copper wiring. We've got, when we think about communication, we think about the critical aspects that makes our national airspace system safe. I was, of my 26 and a half years of flying, I was a captain for 16 of that. So I understand the burden of operating in the NAS, and you want to have the best equipment. Airlines have invested an awful lot of money. You got new entrants coming in. So I go back to say now is the time, and the secretary is on point here to say, look, we're going to exhibit strong leadership. We call on Congress to get this done. I know a lot of folks may talk about, do you give them money up front? We've got no time to lose. I will tell you, when I was administrator, a $24 billion budget, about $5 million for infrastructure, about 3 of that for upgrades, but it wasn't nearly enough.
Yeah, and so having served in the military, ladies and gentlemen, this is the MO of the federal government. Yes, there are agencies out there that you could argue are overfunded, but there are also within those agencies certain departments or certain functions that are underfunded. And that's what you just heard when it came to upgrading systems. That's not enough money. $3 billion is nothing. So yeah, it's only a matter of time where things are going to continue to get worse. And this just happens to be the airport who is experiencing all of this right now. But there may be another one in the future. And you're not going to fix this overnight. Now, this takes us to our next story, because this is also getting a lot of attention. And that is President Trump is floating with the idea of raising taxes on the rich. But wait a minute, Democrats, I thought you said he wanted to give tax cuts to his billionaire friends. Take a listen.
President Trump's last-minute pitch to tax the rich, suggesting Republicans raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans as part of that big, beautiful bill. His proposal increased the top marginal income tax rate from 37% to 39.6%, while extending his 2017 tax cuts for the lower tax brackets. He wrote, the problem with even a tiny tax increase for the rich is, which others would graciously accept in order to help the lower and middle income workers, is that the radical left Democrat lunatics will go around screaming, "Read my lips," the fabled quote by George Bush the elder that is said to have cost him the election. No, Ross Perot cost him the election. In any event, Republicans should probably not do it, but I'm okay if they do. So what would it look like, and who would it impact? The Hill spelled it out. While the top tax bracket for 2024 applied to incomes higher than $609,000 for single filers and $731,000 for joint filers, the White House is pitching a new higher rate that would apply to those with incomes greater than $2.5 million for single filers and $5 million for joint filers, according to one source with knowledge of the pitch. So why do it? A source familiar with the president's thinking telling The Hill, this will help pay for the massive middle and working class tax cuts and protect Medicaid.
Yeah, so here's my question for Democrats, because again, President Trump is beating them to the punch with this proposal here. Why wasn't the House Minority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, going out every single day and saying, hey, we are looking to work with the president to get him to raise the tax rate from 37 to 39, give us some actual concrete numbers so that he can give true tax cuts to working class, because we support that. Isn't it interesting? They've never said that since he became president. You know why? Because they've been so wrapped up in trying to fight against him instead of working with him. And here we are again, where they're on the losing side of this. Now, of course, not all Democrats believe this, and there are rumblings that some Republicans won't go along with it either. Take a listen.
Charlie Gasparino putting out on X, GOP sources I spoke to say the Trump millionaires tax does have the real potential to start a GOP civil war. If there was one thing Republicans had agreed on since Reagan, even in the disruptive age of Trump, is that you cannot tax the rich to economic growth. But there is this sense, Leslie, that somehow it might be appealing to some of the folks that voted for Donald Trump.
Oh, it's really appealing to people on my side of the aisle as well, Brett. As a matter of fact, when I first heard it, I had to check if it was Bernie Sanders talking or somebody else in my party or somebody that has worked in the Clinton administration and or patriotic millionaires. The list goes on. Look, taxing the rich is something that I and many people like on the left. Obviously, some people in the middle on the right like it as well, because what does it do? What the president is talking about, no offense to President Trump, they're talking points from the Democrats over years, which say, way, tax the rich to offset and to help the working and the middle class. That's what he's talking about, to protect Medicaid. I started to like what I was hearing. I was scared. Either he was becoming a Democrat or I was becoming a Republican in that moment. The problem is I don't trust all of it, and I don't trust the messaging, and I agree with that Civil War comment with the GOP, because that is not what Republicans typically want. And certainly it is an area where Democrats and Republicans, some would agree, and it would be beneficial to the American people, but I just don't think that's going to pan out the way we're hearing it.
It's funny how they put it on Trump and they say they're not going to trust it because Trump is the one coming up with it, when honestly it should be about Republicans and Democrats in Congress working this out. Again, why is the president coming up with this? Shouldn't lawmakers be doing this already? That's just me. And here's the other thing. If you're making that amount of money or more, chances are you're investing in things that's going to give you the ability to reduce your tax liability anyway. So you're not really paying 39% on $2.5 million. And a lot of people don't understand that either, but that is the reality. And the president did respond to questions about this potential tax hike on the rich. Take a listen.
Specifically on the possibility of an increase in taxes on wealthier Americans, what do you say to conservative Republicans who argue that this is an increase on small business owners?
Well, what we're doing is we're actually, if we ever did that, it would only be, and from what I hear, people would love to do it, rich people. I would love to do it, frankly, but what we'll do is that, they'll go around saying, oh, this is so terrible. What you do it is you're giving up something up top in order to make people in the middle income and the lower income brackets save more. So it's really a redistribution. And I'm willing to do it if they want. I would love to be able to give people in a lower bracket a big break by giving up some of what I have. But I'll tell you, a lot of people say don't do it because of the fact that you have the Bush statement about read my lips. But he lost because of Ross Perot. He didn't lose because of that statement.
And then on the salt.
But I don't think they're going to be doing it. But I actually think it's good politics to do it where richer people give up. And it's a very small, it's like a point. But they give it up to benefit people on a lower income.
Yeah, so this is another policy that's rooted in common sense. I definitely support it. I see no issue in raising the tax bracket for people who are making multiple millions in a year. Makes total sense to me. And what's interesting is how long until Democrats actually come out and applaud the president for doing this? Don't worry, I will definitely be waiting. Now, earlier today, the White House press secretary had an interesting briefing today because reporters claimed that the upcoming trip for President Trump to Saudi Arabia was not about business. It was actually making money for himself and his family. And so you got to see the way that she reacted. Take a listen.
You noted he is a successful businessman. Do you know if the president has any plans to meet with any of the folks involved with any of the family businesses over there, or see any of the sites that are going to be
Not to my knowledge, and let me just get to the premise of your question that both of you have raised. I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once, but twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interests of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does, and this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards.
Okay, that's exactly what you'd want your White House press secretary to say. That's number one. Number two, even if what the media is saying is true, they have zero credibility. They have no leg to stand on because they were silent when it came to Hunter Biden. That is the cold, hard reality here. And it's the media that broke the trust with the American people when they stayed quiet about Joe Biden's demise. And these are the same people who are now trying to profit on Joe Biden and his mental decline. The irony is funny here. And by the way, isn't Donald Trump the only president to have donated his salary? Isn't Donald Trump the only president where his net worth decreased, like she was saying? So give me a break. Now, The First Lady also made some news today, and again, it shows you that the Trump family is not what the media wants you to believe. Listen to this.
Finally, it was announced this morning that First Lady Melania Trump secured a $25 million investment in President Trump's budget to provide housing and support for youth transitioning out of foster care. And in recognition of the 7th anniversary of Mrs. Trump's Be Best initiative, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development allocated funds toward the agency Foster Youth to Independence program.
Now, some of you guys may have been following me from the beginning, so you know this already. I am adopted myself. And I would say that I don't know where I'd be today if I was not adopted. And I wish adoption would be more of a priority in our society. And not only that the government would allow it to, I don't know, make it an easier process. And, you know, it's just something that isn't celebrated, but should be. Okay. And so I'm glad to hear that the First Lady is continuing to find ways to invest in things like that, because the child does not decide to be born, right? That happens because of the parents. Now, the reporter goes on to ask about more information, and the story that Caroline shares touches your heart. Take a listen.
I want to get back to the First Lady Melania Trump dealing with foster children. That's an important component in American life, to see what happens to the future of our children, particularly in foster care. Can you explain the significance of this development between the First Lady and the Housing and Urban Development?
Yes, absolutely. It's millions of dollars that will go into a program that helps these children transition out of foster care to have productive and positive lives. And I'd like to share a personal story, since you asked if I may. I hope the First Lady won't mind. I was at an event in Florida last year, and I was approached by a gentleman who was a foster dad, and he had taken in, I think it was 6 or 7 foster children. And he spoke to me. He had recognized me in my work for President Trump's campaign at the time. And the little boy who was with him talked about the personal relationship that he had with First Lady Melania Trump, and the conversation she had had with him, and how she really encouraged him to be the best that he could be during her first term here at the White House, and how even after she and President Trump left the White House, she kept in very close touch with this young foster child. It was a touching moment that I will never forget, and it speaks to the heart of this First Lady and the great work that she is doing for foster children. And this is certainly a very big announcement that I know our Secretary of Housing and Urban Development is in particular very excited about, and we can certainly get you all the details on that program.
Now, this might be my opinion on culture, but isn't it interesting that young women who end up pregnant, it was not expecting to be, their first instinct is what? Abortion, not adoption. And I hope that we find ways to give confidence to young women that they don't have to get an abortion. They could go through the pregnancy and give the baby up for adoption. And you'd be shocked at how powerful that decision really is, because I'm telling you, if they do that, that baby one day will thank the mother for doing that. And I would say I'm one of them. So that's why I see it the way that I do. Now, let's hear the way that you see things in regards to this video today. Number one, New York Liberty International Airport is still facing troubles, and the damn mayor is too busy trying to break into an ICE detention center. Can someone make sense of that, please? Let me know what you think about that. Also, do you support President Trump hiking the taxes on the rich from 37 to 39%? Let me know your thoughts about everything throughout this video in the comment section below. Now, earlier today, we had some great news, breaking news, actually. So Letitia James, New York Attorney General, FBI just dropped a bombshell announcement on her. They're now investigating her criminally for the mortgage fraud allegations against her. If you missed out on the details of that story and more from earlier today, all you have to do is click on it, because it's coming up right now.